Hello everyone. Well, this was the number one thing that you guys wanted to learn more about when it comes to persuasive writing, how to engage the reader better. So basically, engaging the reader is all about having your reader go from this guy up here, who's, let's face it, not looking too interested, not looking too excited, to something more like this little lady over here, okay? Excited, interested, they want to read on. They're engaged. That's what it's all about, folks. How are you going to do it? Well, here are some ideas for you. First of all, I want you to think, what is it that keeps you interested when you're reading a text? Have a think about that for a moment. What makes for an interesting read? Perhaps it's when there's something there that makes you think. Maybe it's something that makes you chuckle. Maybe it's something surprising or unusual. Maybe it's just something that sounds cool, okay, sounds interesting, okay, makes you want to read on. Well, as a writer, you've got to be able to use all of these, or at least some of these techniques, to engage your reader. Okay, let's start with making the reader think. Okay, now one way to do this is to use rhetorical questions. We've talked about this already, so I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. Okay, so instead of saying something like this, having a pet is important for a person's health, it's very true, but it's not very interesting. We might use a question to engage the reader, something like this. Don't you think you would feel better with a little puppy or a kitten to cuddle up with? Okay, so that's an example of a rhetorical question. Why don't you have a go yourself? Try to change the statement there on the screen to a rhetorical question. So you might want to pause the video here and just have a go at this yourself. Write it down. Write down a question that you might use instead of the statement that's on the screen. Have a go. Okay, well, I hope you've had a go at that. Here's a suggestion, just one that I've come up with. Don't you believe that if you work hard, you will achieve more success? Okay, so that's just taking the statement and turning it into a question to engage the reader. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Another way is, of course, including something surprising or unusual in your writing. And here are 3 suggestions for you on the screen. Firstly, you can use interesting or unusual words or language in your text. Second thing, if you know about these things, you can use metaphors and similes when you're describing things. Okay, I'm not going to go through now what those are, but if you know, you can use them, and if not, you might want to look them up later and find out what they are. Thirdly, anecdotes. We're going to go through what an anecdote is now. Okay, so what is an anecdote? Okay, let's just have a look. And here we have an anecdote is a short story or a part of a story that you use to make a point. Okay, so let's have a look at a little example of an anecdote. It's a bright sunny morning. A car cruises down the road and through a set of lights. All of a sudden, a bicycle comes hurtling across the path of the car. Tires screech, bang. Okay, now can you think of a text that, or a point there, or an argument that you might use this anecdote for? Okay, so you might be talking about road safety. You might be talking about why bicycles should observe the road rules. Okay, or why you should be a safer driver. But this is just an interesting way. It's called a little anecdote, a little interesting story that just kind of sets that up for the reader. Okay, gets you interested, gets the reader going, thinking, this is pretty cool, pretty interesting. I wonder what this is all about. Good thing to do at the beginning of your text. You might like to put it in something like this in your introduction to engage your reader from the start. Okay, so there's a little hint there. Now, what you might like to do is have a go at this yourself. So have a go at this. Write a short anecdote that you could use to make the point that birds should not be kept in cages. just 2-3 sentences at the most, a little story about a little bird in a cage, something like that, that makes this point about birds and cages. Pause it now and have a little go. See how long it takes. Okay, well, we're back again, and hope you had a bit of fun with that. Okay, if it makes the point about birds not being in cages, then you're on the right track there with anecdotes. So well done. Okay, we'll keep moving. Now, another thing, make your writing sound cool. Here's a couple of ways to do it. Firstly, use a catchphrase or a little rhyme. So if we're talking about the importance of washing regularly, here's a little catchphrase. Don't be a dope, wash with soap. Okay. Advertisers use those sorts of things all the time, don't they? Okay, you can use them in your writing. Alliteration is another really cool way to make things sound interesting. Okay, so that means using the first letter or sound of a word over and over and over again. Like this, people who don't wash regularly are dirty, disease-ridden, and downright dangerous. Okay, now this has been a pretty boring kind of video, not many pictures, not very exciting. So I'm going to try and make it a little bit more interesting for you at this point by putting on these kangaroo ears. Okay, and that's the thing about persuasive writing, sometimes you've just got to surprise people a little bit with what you do, make it interesting. Okay, let's move on to the last one. This is probably the hardest one. You've got to try to make the reader chuckle if you can. Okay, there's a few things you can do. You can include funny anecdotes, little jokes, be a bit cheeky, or exaggerate to make your point. Okay, so here's a little example of something that might make your reader chuckle. Let's get rid of that. If you don't wash regularly, you might end up stinking so much your dad will put you out with the garbage. Yuck. Okay, so we're just gonna skip back again through some of these until we get back to where we started. Here we go. Okay, so these things are just things to think about as you write your text and try to keep the reader engaged. Okay, something that makes them think, something that makes them chuckle, something surprising or unusual, or something that sounds cool. Okay, so if you can include a few ideas from what we've talked about in this video in your persuasive writing, you're going to engage your reader. Good luck, folks.